Describe the impact of the Harlem Renaissance on American culture in the 1920s. Detail key figures and their works within your response. So we went over many of them yesterday and how they contributed to the new style of music and entertainment in the 1920s. All right, let's get to it. So the Harlem Renaissance, what does that mean? What was the Harlem Renaissance? What was it? Tanner, go ahead.
Like a rebirth of African American culture.
Yeah, good job. A rebirth. Good job. A rebirth. So you talked about it in Mr. Henninger's classroom. Civil War, obviously, was slavery. And at the end of the Civil War, there were still a lot of issues in the South, especially with Jim Crow laws and segregation. And many African Americans moved north. And what was that term called when they moved north to seek opportunities in the workplace and a better life? Go ahead, Cassidy. Great migration. Yep, good job. Good job. So millions of African Americans moved north to try to escape the issues of the Jim Crow South and segregation, obviously, and problems that were faced with hate groups like the KKK. All right. I'm not saying the KKK was just focused in the South. There was also groups in the North as well that many African Americans faced with lynching and other problems and conflicts and issues that they faced because of the way society was in the United States at the end of the Civil War, moving to 1900s. All right, the Harlem Renaissance was a rebirth, though. And as many African Americans were moving to the North, especially in these urban cities, it led to overcrowding, right? It led to urbanization and to a point where there's many poor living conditions for many of these people. And what did they do? What was their outlet? What was their way of expressing the hardships they faced? What did they do? What did they create? Noah, what did they create? Yeah, entertainment, right? Music, artwork. And who was one figure we mentioned yesterday that contributed to the Harlem Renaissance and really the expansion and understanding of their culture, their society, in society? Who was one person we mentioned yesterday that you can talk about? Chloe? Duke Ellington, good job. What was he famous for? Yeah, good job. So he was applying the piano to jazz music. The jazz era was through the 1920s, and this was a type of music that was really based off of African American culture. And Duke Ellington, adding the piano, was one main contributor. And he brought a different sound to jazz music, where he traveled to many of the famous speakeasies, clubs, and entertainment institutions all across America and even in Europe. Right? So he was larger than life. And this was help benefiting African Americans in society and giving them more opportunities and a different way of looking at their culture. Who else did we mention yesterday? So Duke Ellington. Cassidy? Yeah, Claude McKay. Okay, good job. What did he do? What was his contributions? Yeah, good job. So he wrote poetry, which will later be applied to lyrics in jazz music. And he mentioned about the overcrowding living conditions, the unsafe, the unsanitary conditions, and many of these ghettos, as what he referred them to, in New York City, okay, in Harlem. And just really detailing about the poor living conditions and lack of opportunities in the workplace and in education. All right, good. Who else? Kara, who did you write about? Louis Armstrong. Okay, good job. And what was he famous for? Yeah, the trumpet. Good job. Okay, the trumpet and brass instruments in jazz era. So again, playing at the finest clubs and speakeasies all across the United States. And he was really one of the main influential factors, key people to the jazz era. All right. So when you think of the jazz era 1920s, he's the one who really comes to mind, him and Duke Ellington. And again, kind of bridging that terrible gap that was created with segregation in the South and the United States, and really elevating African American society, culture in the United States. All right, good. Who else do we mention? Last person here. Chloe, go ahead. Bessie Smith, good job. And what was she famous for? What's that? Yeah, blues singer, good job. And she was the highest paid, one of the highest paid singers in the 1920s. And she was African American. And it just shows that with the Harlem Renaissance, this was a rebirth. This was a new understanding of their culture that is expressed through entertainment, through music, especially jazz. All right, so the 1920s was considered the jazz era. Is there any questions on the Harlem Renaissance? We good? All right. So again, a rebirth, a new look at African American culture. thanks to entertainment. All right, I just wanted to talk about the quota system and installment buying here at the top, these two terms. I didn't get to mention them at the start of the chapter. That's my fault. But those are two terms I want you to know because that will be on the test. So installment buying or installment purchasing. I know I mentioned this a little bit last chapter, the quota system with the Red Scare in the United States. Bless you. All right, what do we got? Quota system. What do we have? Griffin, what do you have?
Um, since this limits the number of immigrants who may enter the U.S. each year, the policy of limiting the number of a minority group members in business for so.
Yeah, good job. Good job. So the quota system, some people look at this as a dark side in American history just because we're limiting the amount of immigrants to the United States. And a lot of that had to do with minority groups. A lot of that had to do with location, where these people were coming from, maybe influential factors of what their background was like, and if they're disabled, which is really unfortunate, obviously. So with the quota system, why do you think the United States would try to issue a quota system in, let's say, the 1920s, right after World War One? Where in what part of the world are we trying to limit immigration from, you think? What do you think? Griffin, go ahead. Okay. All right, parts of Germany. All right, good, good. Where else? Tanner?
Russia.
Yeah, good job. Good job. So Russia, as the Soviet Union's forming, and these Eastern European countries. So why the Soviet Union? Why these Eastern European countries? Why are we restricting immigrants from these locations? Go ahead, Cassidy. Yeah, good job. So communism, right? As that was spreading all throughout Europe, okay, obviously Soviet Union, as this was emerging, right? We wanted to try to limit really the spread of communism in the United States. So if we can just restrict the immigrants coming from these locations, chances are we're going to make sure that this never gets to the United States. All right, good. So like I mentioned, it wasn't just Eastern Europeans, it was Asian countries as well, because they're viewed as lesser, they're viewed as inferior, uneducated. And like I mentioned, this is a dark side of American history where we're trying to limit immigrant groups because of racial tendencies and because of maybe their minority status lack of education, disabilities, you name it. Installment buying. So this is big in the 1920s. I want to make sure we got over this here. Eddie, what do you have for installment buying?
The buyer gains using commodity community, but then pays for the periodic payments.
Yeah, good job. So this is like paying in credit, right? This is paying in forms of payments, which you don't have to pay for the item, their product, all up front right away. So this is a way to afford many different products and products that are really expensive, and means of making small payments on it monthly. And obviously that will have an interest level on it so that business can make a little bit extra cash off of it. But this is a way for many Americans to purchase these luxury style items that they would want and need. And throughout the 1920s, with the industrial boom, okay, and the prosperity coming to US, all right, why wouldn't we want to try to raise the standard of living for all Americans by infusing this idea into our economy? Right, Matt? Yeah, okay, good. Hopefully you got that. Any questions? So I'm going to post your study guide now. You guys can get working on that. If we're not here Monday because of snow, I will put out a review just going over the study guide, and we'll be all ready to go for the test on Tuesday. Okay? Does that work? So make sure you bring your iPads home, your chargers, just in case. Like I said, I'm not saying that it's going to happen or not, but you never know. Be prepared. Oh, I even have the bell ringers here once this loads. There we go. So make sure you post your bell ringers to the assignment. Your vocab is also being posted, so you can attach your vocab right away if you'd like. I think I have it due for, was it Monday? It might be Tuesday. It's on Monday. Okay. Monday at 2:35. There you go. So you guys know what to do. You know what to work on.